Today's guests are Emma and Nick. Now, these two are some of the best flag football refs we have in our country, and in July of 2022, they went down to Birmingham, Alabama for the World Games and represented Canada as officials. So, let's get to know them a little bit better. Who they are, how they got into reffing, and how you can too. I hope you enjoy.
So I started officiating when I was 11 years old, and like the little sister I am, I just followed along with what my older brothers were doing, and I decided to give it a shot. But it was really intimidating, honestly, in the beginning, because like I said, I was 11, and right away I started reffing like U18 games. So I was 11 years old, like reffing 18-year-old guys, so it was interesting.
So a coworker of mine is a head official on football PEI, and he asked me if I'd be interested in joining actually tackle football. So that's where I actually started. I'd always kind of enjoyed watching both NFL and CFL. I was told it was the best seat in the house, and he really sold it well. So it was kind of a natural progression in the spring to do flag football, especially with us being such a smaller province. You're pulling from the same pool of officials for both contact and non-contact. So it was in that spring that I started doing flag football, and I kind of took to flag football probably a lot faster as well, just because the rule book is a lot more simplified. The use cases are more simplified. So I just took to it a lot faster. I still love doing both though, and just being on the field really.
Well, the people I was officiating with made it really easy. I find they've been like one of my favorite parts about it. And we're a team out there too, so you're not out there alone, and realizing that you have the rest of your officials to rely on and work together was really helpful. Also, officiating makes me look at the game in a completely different perspective than I was as a player. So it's really cool to be able to see the game in a different way.
Yeah, so first and foremost, I love the camaraderie of officiating. Like weekly, you see the same people during football season, and you really become friends, not just fellow officials. Equally, some of my favorite tournaments are the nationals, where we actually come across the same officials from across the country, not just in that small province of Prince Edward Island. And you really build chemistry with them. You have long discussions about rules and interpretations, and you catch up on their personal life. You make that connection both on and off the field. The second thing I really like about the officiating is the community aspect of it. I love learning about the game. Doesn't matter about the different perspectives, like coaching, players, officiating. I think I enjoy learning it all. In turn, I enjoy taking what I've learned as an official and teaching coaches, players, and other officials about the game. One of my favorite age groups is actually the U12 age group, or the younger age group, because it's not as competitive. You can really slow the game down. You can explain the rules, formations, what we're looking for as officials, and the kids just absolutely absorb it. And in the end, we're really on the field so that the kids and adults can play the game. So that's something I really love about football.
It can be kind of intimidating, especially where football is such a male-dominated sport. Entering it as a woman, and trying to make your voice heard and everything can be really hard, especially entering as such a young woman too. Oftentimes I feel like it's like you can be dismissed or like underestimated or stuff like that, but the more experience I've gained and stuff like that, you just gain confidence and you learn how to deal with those like individual cases, and overall the community is really welcoming, but there are some challenges. Other than that, I would just say maybe it's hard when players and coaches think they understand the rules, or maybe they don't even know the rules and they know that, but they still try to argue and stuff, and they don't understand that I'm with them, I'm on their team, I'm going to help them, like I want to explain the rules and hear you out. But if you're trying to argue and stuff, that can be kind of frustrating.
Yeah, I see two really big challenges for officials. The first one is really about communication. Games are really intense in football. And it brings out the intensity of everybody, whether you're a player, whether you're a coach, whether you're an official, or whether you're a parent. And with that intensity, it's sometimes really hard to maintain good communication and good body language. And remember that we're all just human. Sports across the globe are experiencing shortages of officials, largely because of verbal and even physical abuse. And it's all across all the different levels. On the flip side, officials are taught rules, we're taught mechanics, but something like a de-escalation process or communication, that's not something that's really taught. The second challenge I see can be the stress that you put on yourself. Being an official out there, there's a couple plays each game where it's up to you to make that critical call that can change the outcome of the game. You train yourself to be in the right place at the right time to make those calls, but there'll always be human error in how that. And because of the dynamic of the sport, it's very much a challenge. You know, did someone cross your sight line right at that play? Did you have the right angle? It's truly a game of inches. So you always debrief after those plays and you're trying to find a way to improve the next time. But we are at the NFL, so we don't have cameras pointing at every part of the field, multiple angles to see every different viewpoint, and the ability to overturn those calls. So as an official, you always strive to be perfect, but that's unrealistic and you need to accept that you'll always make mistakes.
Well, I knew it was going to be such a huge tournament, and it was my first international tournament, so I was feeling really nervous. So I tried to not think about it or overthink it too much until I was really in the moment, and then I let myself feel all those emotions, and I just tried really hard to turn the nerves into excitement, which I feel like I did a pretty good job at. But yeah, I was really excited. I was also, like I said, I play, so I was a little bit jealous watching them play and just having to stay like off the field. So, but it was awesome.
Yeah, it was unreal to get that call to be officiating at the World Games. We had submitted my name to the selection committee months prior, but I knew Football Canada's national teams weren't going to be going. So I wasn't quite sure how that was going to work for Football Canada officials. And not to mention, there's many great officials worldwide, especially in the flag football, which is such a huge sport all across the world. So I didn't go in with the expectation to be selected. So when I got that call, I was really elated. My thoughts turned to how grateful I was for all the officials that I've crossed paths with. Those are really the ones that you've learned so much about the game. All the discussions around the rules, the interpretations, the mechanics, that's all that have taught me and how I've learned up to that point. I wouldn't have reached those levels with each and every one of them. I also felt really thankful for my family too, because as you're aware, being an official in sport, it takes a lot of time away from your family. Whether you're going to football games, whether you're going to meetings, the games could be local, they could be regional, national tournaments. It does take up a lot of time. And then the other part is that I actually felt extreme pride just to represent Canada and Prince Edward Island as such a small province at an international event. It's always going to be really special. So I felt a lot of pride as well.
Well, like I said, it was my first international event, so I didn't feel overly comfortable with the IFAF rules because there are a few differences from the Canadian rules. So my main goal going in, and I repeated this to myself so many times because I didn't want to set expectations. I was like, just go in and absorb and learn as much as you can. Like, you're going to be surrounded by the best officials. Like, you're young. They're not expecting anything from you. You shouldn't either. Just learn. And I feel like I really did do that. And I also, throughout the tournament, tried to take what I learned and adjust day by day. And I feel like I accomplished what I set out to do because I did end up in the gold medal game, which was a really cool experience. And leaving the tournament completely, I feel like I've learned so much about not only reffing, but also like football in general. So I feel like I learned a lot, yeah.
First and foremost, again, like it was just an learning experience for me. The international rules and mechanics was a little bit different than the Canadian rules. So I just really wanted to go in with an open mind. As well, a lot of the other officials that from the other different countries had previously worked together in other international events. So I really wanted to come in and learn from them. My second goal was really because I really wanted to be selected for a medal game. And I have to admit that I was going in quite confident, but the nerves really set in on day one. I felt like I had prepared well for the tournament, but I was struggling to apply the rule book on the field, like muscle memory, just because I was so used to the Canadian game. But somewhere during day two, I kind of finally started to relax a little bit. I got a little more comfortable with the situation. I started rebuilding my confidence. From then on, I really felt like I improved every game. and I was happy to be selected as part of the women's semifinals and the women's bronze medal game ultimately. Third, I wanted to leave as a better official than when I arrived. I wanted to be able to raise my game to that level, even for myself, knowing that I can raise my game to that level and put myself into being in a position to be selected for future events. And then lastly, I really wanted to take what we learned from the World Games and take it back to Canada and share with the other flag officials across the world. I was also lucky enough that upon return, I attended the Canadian Flag Football League Senior National Tournament, as well as a U20, U18, U16 national tournament. So I really try to use those events to share my World Game experience, to share what I've learned, to improve officiating across the country.
Well, if you didn't have so much of a football background, I would just emphasize how amazing it is getting outside and getting active. And I love the fact that it's outside, honestly. It's a really good way to meet people and stuff like that. And then if you did have history in football already, I would just remind you that it's such a good way to stay in the game and stay involved if you can't play anymore or decided not to play. And also, it gives you a different perspective on the game. So either way, you're learning.
Yeah, I'd just say go for it. Like, you really have nothing really to lose. Football Canada makes it really easy to get started. They have a new online learning portal, so that's your starting point. And that's really usually the hardest part. And then really connect with your local provincial officials association. Each province usually has them. That's really another good starting point. Once you start doing those games, connect with your fellow officials. Don't be afraid to ask questions. That's a really big one. And it's all for the sake of learning from the others' experience, right? Mentorship is really, really important. That's how we're going to grow officials in this country. Continue to strive to be a better official. Read the rule books and mechanics. Mechanics is a big part of it too. Participate in conversations, listen to podcasts, and these don't have to necessarily always be directly related to football. Being as an official, the skills, whether you're an official in basketball, whether you're an official in hockey, the skill sets often translate across all the different sports. But most importantly is just have fun with it. It's very easy to get caught up in the intensity of a game, but at the end of the day, it's meant to be fun. So enjoy those light moments in the game that there always is a few. Enjoy your fellow officials, have some conversations with some players, some coaches. And at the end of the year, it's those moments that make you remember, and not the past interferences that you miss.